you want me to be in the picture all the time, so I come here to change the slide. Hey, yeah, greetings from Finland. So I left Finland yesterday already. I came with the ferry to Stockholm and flew here this morning. I'm Sami, one of the original Vaadiners. So I guess there were few who has heard about Vaadin at least. So using it a lot. I know some are, and I actually invited if there are some friends or from London that we have some customers here also, but I'm not seeing anyone here. Nice to be here. It's it's a privilege, and I wasn't thinking of having a talk in a conference sense, but more like because this is a meetup, so you have questions. I have some slides, and I can go through those. They shouldn't take that long. There should be room for looking into the stuff more deeply in the code and for your questions, whatever you might have. So those who don't know anything about Vaadin, it's something that the title suggests. You can build web UIs with Java. So why would you do that? So that's one question you can ask me later. Well, maybe we jump into that. So I could have talked a bit about, how would I say, full stack development. Who is a full stack developer in their mind? Everybody needs to be this. I think that's the most popular job title. Like 10 years ago, it was the front-end developer. Everybody was front-end developer, and suddenly we realized that you actually need something from. This was dramatic, but I can handle that. So yeah, the hell is getting loose. So, but if you're a Java developer, do you do front end? So who is the Java developer here? This is Java meetup, so everybody is Java. So you get to do some user interfaces, okay, and so you probably know that it's not easy. So and it's actually quite a lot of things you need to master to do that kind of work. These are some of the symbols from the front end world. So basically, in addition to the business logic that you run there on your server, if you want to have a UI for that, you need to start mastering a different level of syntaxes and tools. So first, for the front end languages, we use TypeScript quite a lot, JavaScript, of course. That's not all. You need to understand the DOM structure. How does that work? How does shadow DOM work? How do custom elements work? How is the web UI constructed? And then, if you are savvy, usually backend developers are not so keen with styling, but if you need to do that and if you want to do that, that's whole different tooling again. And of course, this all goes together with the more tooling. So that's what you need to learn quite a lot of things to actually build a full stack application from the front end to the back end. I'm not speaking about the databases and the backend logic, which you already probably know way better than these ones. But our promise with Vaadin is this one. So what if you don't need to do that? What if you don't need to learn that tooling, but you can use only Java for building this? And code. So maybe it's easiest to start with code. This is Java code. It's one Java class implementing a one view using Vaadin. So where you can see Vaadin here is these components. So we have here horizontal layout, and we have here text field, and we have here button. And these are the Vaadin components. Well, they sound familiar. So of course, if you have done any UI at any point of time, that's what you have. You have buttons and text fields and drop-down boxes, and we didn't invent those. To be clear, those were. I'm an old guy, but they were invented before I was born. So I think somewhere in the 60s, the first drop-down list and text boxes were invented. So after that, we have been reinventing the wheel all the time as an industry, and we invented it again. But we did it a slightly different way, so that we abstracted it in a logical sense. So what you see here is a Java API for text field. So if you have used something like Swing back in the days, if that's familiar, this looks pretty familiar to you because it's quite close to that. So very object-oriented way of building the user interface. Then there are events. In here we add a click listener to button, and we show a notification there when the button is clicked. So, and then some layouting and styling here in Java. And the last thing, which is the composition of the thing. So we are putting these name and the text field and the button, we are putting that inside the horizontal layout, so they are side by side. So yeah, maybe we go through like this still. So this is maybe the only thing that reminds you that we are actually running in a web application. Other than that, this is just Java class. There is nothing that would indicate that this goes to web app. It could be a desktop application. But there is this route annotation, which is a hook for Spring framework or CDI to catch it and deploy this class as one view. Yeah, so we extended the layout, and then we created the component, event handling, and adding it to layout. And you get something like this. It's if you run this as a Spring Boot application, this class, it runs immediately, and you get the text field and the button. So you didn't do any of those front-end CSS, HTML, or JavaScript. Questions at this point? How does it work?
So this add, is it where you can add multiple components in that?
Sorry?
Adding, like in the layout world, you sort of add things to the layout.
Yeah, we add here.
Horizontal layout method, and it's
yeah.
You can add multiple components.
Yeah. And this is basically the idea that you compose the user interface from these. So you nest these more, and you create more complex view. I have more examples here coming, so we can look those. But some principles. So you probably better Java developers than I am. But what's our thinking behind this tooling? So our thinking starts with the user. So even though that we sometimes hate the users, they are the ones that need to be happy with the software that we build, and there is always the user somewhere. So even though that's behind the APIs or abstractions, it's still there, and that should be our main goal. I'm sorry, that should be our main goal. So so to making the user happy. How do we make them happy? Well, this is a simplification, but they like easy to use applications which have the features that they want. So you want to build those features that the users need. You might not agree with those. I don't always agree that are you sure you want it this way, but you usually they have a point why they want it like that. And going forward from that, developers, you, me, that's our job to be building those features for the users. And this is basically the idea behind the Vaadin. Okay, yeah. So this is added here because nowadays too often we see that situation that there is a front-end team and a backend team who has this set up in their work. Yeah, so quite a few. So that, you are not actually building full stack applications, but you're building an API and then somebody else is consuming it. And delivering those one feature at a time is really, it requires multiple teams to interact, and that might lead to some saying. So our thinking is that we need to unite this. So we need to do the user interface and the backend more closely together so that you can actually focus on delivering those features. That's a kind of mindset. And what there is in the framework is different kind of components. You saw their text field and the button. So those are the one of the easiest ones. There is a different. We can look into this. So there are data entry, visualization components, different layouts, so you can build complex layouts. We do styling for you, so you don't need to do that if you don't like that. And then also Figma libraries for the designers, so they can build the designs using our components. And accessibility has been a big thing lately. So we put a lot of effort in that. So all of those components, there is a third-party certification for all of our components, so that they are really accessible. That's a European thing. Sorry. Yeah. So the Figma library is it's a design system that it has all of our components in that library. So you can use our components and design the UI in Figma, and then you can bring that to Java code. I can show that. So yeah. 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 The code. Yeah. So it's yeah. So technically, what that library is, it's just a collection of those designs, so that the designers can design using Vaadin components. But the components are Java components. The components are running Java, and it's not connected to Figma. But there is a way to import from Figma to Java code. So that way around, you can do it. To Java. Yeah. So I can show how it works though. So yeah, so more, I don't know, benefits. I think these are more of a principles, but thinking that you can build a user interface in Java, and it's funny that Vaadin is really old company in the industry. We are 25 years old company, and the funny thing is that when we started in year 2000. The question was pretty much the same as that. Why would you build UI in Java? But back then there was nothing to do in the web, and there was first versions of Java were out, and it was completely different world. But we were pioneers back then. Now we are more or less, stabilized on how it can be done and make it in an effective way. We are still the second bullet point that we are not trying to replace the web technology. So that's an important thing to remember, that they are still there. So we are just abstracting them into these components. So you don't need to worry about that how a text field works internally. It's actually a really complicated thing. You might think that it's a simple one, but it's a slightly complicated one. Even button is very complicated one. But they are inside the components. I have a few slides for that, so we can look into. Yeah, but we should have most of the components already. it's open source, so it's not something that we get money from. We do support and we do design services and maintenance on top of these applications. The components are mostly free. There are some commercial ones, but so how does it work? So how do you think it works? Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
There's something called JID as well. There's a product which is like a wrapper over the Swing components, and it allows you
to do web applications. Yeah. Yeah. Do you know how that works technically? So how does it get to the browser from
go
the?
to the browser. I mean, that's just more like a Swing application.
Yeah.
This is just
Yeah. Okay. So it's
called
like a
Swing,
native desktop application. Yeah.
Just runs on
Okay. Yeah. 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 But yeah. Yeah. So that's already on the line. So the Google Web Toolkit we hear a lot. That's because we were using Google Web Toolkit in the history, and there are similarities. And we actually got a lot of users moving from Google Web Toolkit to Vaadin, but architecturally they are different, and I can explain it here. So now we have here browser. This part is browser. It's gray because we are server side guys. So that's something that you don't usually want to worry about. This is where your application and your business logic is. This is the server running on JVM. So you have these. Well, now I have the button here and some low-level components like div and span. They are similar Vaadin components, simpler one only. And you instantiate the Java class here, and that calls virtually. It calls a method using WebSockets or HTTPS on the client side, which creates you the HTML structure on the browser. So we are not compiling the Java to JavaScript or anything like that. That's something that I hear a lot, that so you are taking the Java code and running it in the browser. That's what Google Web Toolkit does. So you actually compile the Java code to JavaScript and you run it in the browser. So we were using the Google Web Toolkit here. So we were using it here to render these elements. So, but this is what Vaadin actually does. It keeps the state on the server side, and then also other way around. So when the user interacts here, there is an event sent to server. It can be HTTP or WebSockets. It's transparent to the component and it's transparent to the application. And this is more realistic component. That's maybe when you compose things, but this is a single component. So it says add-on here. I can get back to that, but you can create your own components for the framework. So there are some methods that you can call from server to client. So you can set the properties on the element, you can set the attributes and execute JavaScript right from the Java code. And then you can catch some of the events from the element on the server side. And what I recommend is that use full in here. They are this is green and this is blue now. So the green part is where you should do your rendering. You should do your something that doesn't necessarily have a business meaning, but it's nice to use, or like animations and things like this. And in here you do the things that are business critical, like validation or conversions or things like this. So you do them on the server side. But logically, this is the text field, the whole thing, both parts. So there is a text field element and text field Java class. So when you're using Vaadin components, you are using both parts. But this is, and the add-on kind of indicates there that you can create more of these. So if you come up with a good idea of a client server component that you need, you can create your own. And here is actually an example. This was small exercise of mine that doing a Loqate integration. Is Loqate something that someone knows here? This is front-end stuff now. So Loqate is an animation library. So it's basically After Effects export format player, so you can play things. And oh, dramatic. Let me show the animation here. So I created this component. So I wanted to use those animations in my app because I really love these small animations every here and there. Not overusing them, but adding some eye candy. So I created this Vaadin component. I extend the component and created this Loqate component. It's basically a player for these files. And I do very little here than only send most of the things to the client side. Like I said, most of the things that doesn't have business meaning should be done on the client side. So I only send them there. So I set the attribute where the animation is coming and then whether it should be auto-playing. And I default for transparent background. So for some reason, I don't remember anymore. But here is a way to call a JavaScript function from the server. So effectively, what I created here is a Java API for that web component there. So to go step by step here, so we actually import a package from npm.js.com. So it's just a standard web component imported from there. There's the tag, which is kind of wiring this component class to that client side class or element name. Then there is the bootstrap. So we are invoking or loading the JavaScript module from that npm package and instantiating it. So whenever you instantiate this component, that's what's executed. And then we are configuring it in the constructor. So when I create a new instance, and here, like I said, calling the JavaScript from the server side. And the benefit is that after this, I can use it in my application. So in Java, so when I start actually using it in different part of my application, I can do the component. Which animation do I want to play, and do I want to play it immediately or not? And then I can call the Java API to play it. So I abstracted the whole thing into Java API, and now I can reuse this everywhere, just like a normal Java component. And there you can see the animation in action. So it's very nice, making sure that your data is in the database.
Back on the previous slide.
Yep.
When you're importing the package.
Yeah.
So
yep.
I take it that's just like a standard npm.
Yeah.
Package thing. And
yeah. So it's node modules. Yeah. Yeah.
Downloading it.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I've kind of got a security question.
Yeah.
A lot of tools that we have will automatically scan things. So for example, on the front end, they'll scan your package.json.
Yeah.
Do they integrate correctly with Vaadin and make sure that they're
scanning
these versions as well, or is there a different place in which you can specify these to make sure that we?
So yeah, so basically it generates you the package JSON when you are building the components for the first time. So it generates you the package JSON, which you can do the security check against. So using the same tooling basically.
So it is actually building like a front end.
Yeah. So yeah, that's a good point, because we need to do the front end building still. We do with Google Web Toolkit. That was Java to JavaScript compilation, but now it's a Webpack process that an npm build that we run. the thing is that I only need to do it when I'm installing a new component in the framework. When I'm using it in the applications, at this point, I don't need to do the front-end build anymore, because it's already, the component is already compiled and it's already part of the client side. Yeah.
It's kind of RPC, it's almost remote procedural.
Yeah.
So if I want an unreliable connection on mobile,
yeah,
would if I click play then triggers, it doesn't execute JS. Is that on the front end, or is that a call that goes to the back end? So if I've lost connection, do I not have the ability to play it?
Yeah, if you lost, so we have the state is on the server side. So if you lost the connection, it doesn't do anything. It will has fallbacks for the connection, so and it will not lose the events if it's just a short glitch. But eventually it will need the connection. Yeah. So you can create your client side components also. So you can build components using client side technologies to call on the client side if you need that. But I would call it more like an optimization for bad networks. So if you need that, so I wouldn't start from there. But if you see that that's really needed, you can do it more on the client side on those web components.
What
Yep.
sort of, I guess, volumes of traffic have you seen this used with if there's so much
Back and forth? Yeah.
the server?
Yeah, and 15 years ago we got this question really a lot, but nowadays, since people are sitting in the video conferences all day long, they are not so much worried about the data anymore. So yes, it's a data, but it's not so much that then your video call is. So it's.
I guess the question is about performance.
Yeah.
Rather than data. Data is fine, but
like a delay.
If there is traffic is very high to the
Yeah.
website, and
Yeah.
it's doing, for each of the requests, it's doing everything on the server side.
Right? Yeah.
Rather than which could have been delegated in the browser or
Yeah.
client
Yeah.
side, right? So a lot of everything is happening on the server side.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
How is the performance impact of that if there are large number of people?
So maybe this is something that I wouldn't do a Google with this. If you look how Google works nowadays, if you press a button there in Google, every keyboard goes to the server. So they have quite a lot of load there. So basically we do the same, but it depends on the server. So I think our tests were for 15,000 current users. So you can manage that, and I think even there the problem is more or less the connection pool. That how many connections can you keep open in the different clients. So in the kind of application, well, we can actually see why it's not been a big problem. Usually this is used in the business internal applications where you don't fine tune the client side so much, but you need a quick web UI, and those are usually organization internal applications that has a limited amount of users. So it hasn't been. So yeah, maybe my personal experience is that the most hardest one actually was the one application where there was several hundred of users, simultaneous users always, and you could see each other, so you could see the delay between the users. So that was the trickiest one. Then you needed to optimize a little bit already, but other than that, you are basically used to it that there is a network delay of some kind. Yeah. It is. Backend is stateful. Yeah, very much stateful. Yes. So yeah. So it's not a bad thing. It's there is no such thing as stateless applications, even though that you are told. So the state is always somewhere. So.
So it feels like scaling up.
Sorry?
If you're scaling up
Yeah.
on the back end,
Yeah.
then all the current connections that you currently got are still going to continue connecting to the old.
Sorry, now I didn't. Yeah, I think that's the easiest one. I think that's the easiest one. It's not well. You can do like session mirroring or session sharing there, and some like to do that. And but I wouldn't even go that far. Usually, it's if it's URL encoded the application state, the worst thing that could happen that it redirects to another place and you get the same view. So as long as the login stays, as long as you can manage the login between those. Yeah, sure.
How can you split this up? I can imagine that in this context where you implement the client and the server in the same app, the app can grow a little bit more than the usual app.
So
you do microservices.
Yeah, and that's what people do. So having the services separated from the UI. So
You
that's
still have a different app for the server and client, even if both have Java.
so in those scenarios, what is it called in the front end world? But you have this front proxy thinking. So everything it goes through one front proxy and then to the microservices. So Vaadin is close to that then. So that's maybe the architectural thinking thing. So yeah, so I can show. How much time do we have? but technically on the client side, they are custom elements. They are HTML, so you can run multiple of these on the same page. So you can. So in Vaadin terminology, it's application, but you can have a application per service and combine those. Not that I see that too much. I think that maybe it's a use case thing, and I think this slide tries to even explain it a little bit why this is not a tool for everything. Don't build your Google website with this one. So the reasoning behind here is that the business web application UIs, they are complex. Typically they are really complex. But at the same time, their budget per view is not that much. So when you are building high volume websites, you can put a lot of effort and a lot of money in one view. But if you are building a web application for business use case, you might have a 3-person team building an application for 2,000 people, and you need some better tooling. You can't spend your time building it from the small pieces anymore. So you need bigger pieces, and that's where it basically is. So in well, this is an artificial example, but you could put like 100,000 for one view, and the cost per user is still pretty modest. So it's only $1 per user, but in the business application, so you can't afford put too much to one view, and it's still 500 per user. So it depends on how much effort can you put in there. So completely different kind of web applications that we are building with Vaadin. So and the next question is that who the hell uses this kind of stuff? So these are some of our customers. So we don't know about open source users, so that's something that we can't really say anything about. But some of those customers that I haven't worked with every one of these, but I can tell that this was a store management application. This was a document management application, same as this was a document management. CGI has plenty of different kind of management applications that they have built with Vaadin. So, but you can see the theme there. You can see what kind of applications. So it's stateful applications. So that already says that you can't scale to millions of users
Mainly
easily.
internal applications.
Yeah, internal web applications. Yeah.
And if I can comment,
yeah,
yes,
sure.
It's basically, for example, like if you would, example is Google, yes, or their client facing or customer like individual. If you wanna build, I don't know, shop or Amazon or whatever, they use, so they change very often, and they is like a lot of custom components. Yes, like everything is customized. Yes, that's not the strength of the Vaadin. But strength of Vaadin is, hey, if you wanna have button, here's your button. If you wanna have like table, this is your table. Wanna field, and when I was working as a backend engineer, I don't have to care about this. Where to place it? Does it look good? Do I have to change CSS? I just the same like I Swing or JavaFX. I want a button, yes? Here it is.
Yeah.
Basically, I don't have to worry about this. Is for me the biggest strength. I know. Was in that.
Yeah, that's true.
So we've seen like a very simple.
Yeah.
Like just the text.
Text field.
The horizontal layout.
Yeah.
But does it mean that I haven't? But does it mean that you have like complete complex business
component?
Component, like for example, this is like a filterable data table.
Yeah. So here you can see the grid component. I would say that's one of our most used components. So if not them, this is one component. Yes, I can see how it looks in the code in a moment. So
is that support paging?
It's lazy loading. So yeah, there is a paging version because people wanted that too. so but we started with the lazy loading version.
So essentially, it's a package with out of the box widgets.
Yeah. We have that.
You can't customize your own graphics.
You can, but with CSS, I would say. So that's like I can show you. So if we have time, or do we have another speaker already?
Yeah, right.
But
as I say, if you have to like 5 minutes this way or another.
Yeah. If you're not getting bored, so that
you have to come again.
I can come again. So yeah. So we had this internal workshop in that in this domain of applications that what do we see that where this is going, the world is going. Yeah, everybody's saying AI everywhere, so it's there. We didn't put it into too much emphasis because it's kind of everywhere in a way. But maybe the collaboration is something that we see in the application happening more. So there's real-time collaboration application. That's maybe one of those things. And also the same thing. The linkable means that you can integrate different applications together with links easily. So that's but maybe not more of that. I promised to show some code, so so maybe we go there. I need to sit down here. Can I fit? Yeah. So I prepared by taking this is our one of our expo demo applications. So this is what, if you visit Vaadin in Devox UK, you will see this same application there. So sure. Let's see. So how do I zoom this one now? Which one? Well, okay, I can do this. Yeah. So this works. So I'll show the application first. So this is the application. So basically, it's demonstrating some of those components. You can see WebSockets in action here. So they are we are pushing data from the client to server, and maybe this is, I don't know. Well, we don't have that much time, but it's an interesting thing because it's one annotation that you turn on the WebSockets, and you can turn them off also. Then if you don't need them, and the application still works. You don't need to change anything in your application. It just doesn't push automatically to the client. It only pushes when you go to the server. So now it's open all the time. I think World would be more or less ready for having WebSockets as a default, but not yet. So forms. So this is very typical Vaadin application. You have some kind of form, and then I mentioned already the grid. So you have sorting and the lazy loading built in. But let's look at the code for this one. So that shows kind of the power. So this is the grid view. Again, one class, one view. We are extending vertical layout here. And nice thing that being on the server side, if we need a service, so this is now a Spring service. Since Spring 3, Spring Boot 3, you don't need the auto wired anymore. So if you're looking for that, it's here. So you don't need it anymore. So it's auto wired here. So whenever new instance of this class is created, you get an instance of the person service, and then we create a new grid display, configure some columns, and then we set the items mapping this query. I don't know why we embedded our own query format, but it's different from Spring query format, so you need an adapter there. So slightly different parameters, but the same principle. So it's paging lazy loading, and that's it. So you get the lazy loading, you got the column sorting, you have everything built in that grid already, and that's the code that you need to write to actually use it. So that's the power. So you can actually create those user interface fast. Yeah. Yeah. So you could implement your own query here, for example. Yeah. So basically, so you mean like filling the grid from microservice, or? Yeah. But basically, you would do it the same way. So in here, I'm calling the service directly because I'm already in the JVM. I already have the service instance here. But this could be proxy for a microservice, or I could call it here instead of doing this query. I could do another query somewhere else. So yeah.
So this is also like to add to this one. This is like presentation layer, yes.
What happened? Okay.
What is your business layer?
Yeah.
Where your data coming from? It could be the service of the same VM. It could be something remote.
So we are running in one JVM. You can run your business logic in the same JVM or another JVM. But that's whatever you can do in Java. So this is Java. This is full Java. This is not Google Web Toolkit. So you can call any Java library and framework and whatever you find. So that's the thing. And maybe the last time I was in London. No, that wasn't last time. But years ago when I was in London, there was a situation that we had a German customer, and they were sure that the London office, they need to use Vaadin. And I was having a presentation and explaining all this to the London office, and they were like, what's the point in here, and what's the does it scale, and what? And then the German guy there said, hey, can I add here something? We chose it because it's faster to write those applications. Okay. That's the reason. So yeah. Yeah, you can use Kotlin. Yeah, you can use Kotlin. Yeah, if you like that. And we have in our company, we have some of our employees, they love Kotlin, so they are pushing it everywhere. So yeah. Yeah.
front on the backend.
Yeah.
In this case,
yeah, it works with Kotlin very well, so it's
Is this optimized for acceptance testing? For example, the donor thing.
yeah.
But I don't see any kind of ID or tag.
Yeah.
What does it help with that?
So you can assign here IDs. So if you want to have not here, so get element. So this is actually something that you can always do. You can set the property attributes for the element directly from Java. I wouldn't recommend this because you're kind of breaking the abstraction if you are calling, on application code, you are calling something component internal, but sometimes it's a handy way to, for example, add those ideas. Yeah. The way we use Selenium and Playwright for the testing, so you can find instruction for both. So generally, I would always recommend that be as close as possible to the user. So choose the button by text because that's how the user chooses it, not by ID. But of course, depending on the test environment, you might want to have those IDs anyway. So. We are not an exact match, but as a mindset, if you have those components, we usually have a similar component at least, but they are not one-to-one. So if you are using the Google Web Toolkit components, but it's Java. This is Java, so.
How good your separation is.
Yeah.
Presentation layer is separate from business logic.
Yeah.
Would be easier than.
Yeah. So.
A couple of questions.
Yeah, sure.
The one, which may not be this kind of use case.
Yeah.
Have any support for like A/B testing or anything where we want to try different variations of the front end and see how users respond to it?
Not directly out of the box, but that would make an interesting add-on for Vaadin. That's a good idea. Exactly the kind of ideas I came for. The A/B testing is good. Yeah.
The other thing which may be I noticed that when you're doing that, the grid is not immutable, as in you're adding and changing it.
Yeah.
All the way through, which potentially means that if you have that grid object, after you've added it to the component, you can make changes to it at some other point.
Yeah.
Which I'm not sure whether that would then mean it would change the grid or it wouldn't, or whether it depends on the web socket being there for it to update it. I just wondered if this is sort of
so like refreshing one item in the grid basically situation, or through the database. Yeah.
I would imagine that most of the time we wouldn't want to change the grid. We want to define it.
Yeah.
And say this is the grid.
Yeah.
I just wondered if there's any sort of thoughts about support for components.
I'm not sure which level are we talking now, but there's basically two where Vaadin is really good at is completely dynamic UIs. Something that you don't actually, write the UI code at all, but you write how the UI is created based on data. So that was the majority of Vaadin applications. So if you have a UI specification in the database, and you generate the whole UI from there. So.
Sorry.
Yeah. Oh, you're throwing me out. That's good.
It's great again to
I can show you more if you know.
Sami is here. He's not going. I'm not throwing him actually. So he will be here.
Yeah.
But because we have to leave at 9. So there is a pizza, and afterwards you're going to the pub as well. Yes.
Yeah. We can do some Java there.
More questions, and like Sami say, he really loved to hear them.